Can DWP ask to see your bank statements? And what do you do if you get a comment like this, like one of my subscribers on the Justice Journal's YouTube channel had recently? Well, we're going to be going through that in today's video. This is interesting for anybody that's on Universal Credit, ESA, LCWRA, or even PIP. So that's people that also work as well as people that do not. And I'm also going to be showing you and talking to you about a hidden benefits loophole that some organisations don't want you to know about and most definitely haven't been telling you about, but I will be doing that in this video. So to get started, I'm going to read out this comment for some of you that are hard of seeing, or maybe you are on a small device, because it is a little paragraph. So let's read it. I had a phone call today about checking to see if I'm still on the right benefits. Then 2 minutes after, they have demanded in my journal to upload 4 months of bank statements. How this has anything to do with my benefits is beyond me. I sent them off straight away, but now I'm worried they are going to scrutinise all my spending habits. They said they would stop my claim if I refused, so I sent them. Although I have nothing to hide, I feel violated, like it was just an excuse to get my bank details. From now on, I'm going to start drawing cash out of my bank and using that to do my spending. I didn't want to go through the risk of them stopping my money, but I'm angry how they have gone about this. So now I have to wait and see what they say or do next. I will let you know the results. Well, thank you to that lovely subscriber whose name I've obviously concealed. And thank you to everybody else that also leaves the comments. I do read them all. And as you know, I make videos to help you guys out around those comments. Because I used to work for DWP, I've sued them single-handedly 3 times and been successful. And I set the Justice Journals up to help people and point people in the right direction of the types of advice and opportunities open to them when they are in situations around needing perhaps a little bit of guidance and support on money, self-advocacy, disability, and relative things to that. Now, whilst I know the fear is genuinely real, there have been an awful lot of changes over the last year in regards to Universal Credit because of the Fraud, Error and Recovery Act. In addition to that, there are 2 major things in play here. First of all of the different changes that Rishi Sunak made in the disability reform paper before he left his place as Prime Minister. And now the new suggestions of reform relating to people who are unemployed. And that basically is that if you are still unemployed after 12 months, they are going to either find you a job or they're going to mandate community work. This is a proposal, it's not quite set in stone, for you being in receipt of state benefits. Now, as I have said literally for nearly 2 years, from your bank statements, as somebody that used to have to analyse lots of different things, your lifestyle, your life choices and everything that you do is more valuable information to organisations like the Department of Work and Pensions than how many pounds and pence you've got in there. And whilst the majority of people on state benefits like Universal Credit, like PIP, like LCWRA are completely honest and aren't doing anything wrong, there is devastatingly a small but growing amount of people that are. And as you can see from a Universal Credit enhanced review team agent, allegedly, that's left a comment on my YouTube channel, he says, I'm a UC Enhanced Review Team Agent. I have been doing this for 12 months now. I have seen very much, and some things I would have never imagined with some claimants. As you can see, I have asked that agent to list a few things for us to know. And I will be sure to let you know if they respond to me. However, The point I'm making here is really split. Number one, there is a huge amount of fraud that is going on. It's not necessarily about people who are working on the side or harbouring hundreds of thousands of pounds in their bank account and making out that they're not. It's about people's lifestyle. And a lot of people, unfortunately, are claiming for things like PIP and LCWRA, saying that they are too ill to work, when in actual fact, if you were to look at their bank statements, you would say, okay, you're saying you can't walk and you can't go out the house, but here you are shopping here on that day and there on that day and spending money in this pub and this restaurant and buying this and buying that. And this starts to build up quite a different pattern to what some people declare. And I'm just saying, I'm not saying that that is what this person has said or what anybody has said, but because people have been dishonest, this is why we do now partly have the Fraud, Error and Recovery Act. I will also say my personal opinion is it's also because lots of people at DWP just haven't been doing their job properly. ACCA, an Albanian gang that managed to defraud the DWP for I don't know how many millions of pounds before they kind of realises there was something wrong, tells me that there are a lot of problems in DWP workland. So I'm definitely not going to be that person to hang this all on the head of the claimant, because it's most definitely not completely true. Anyway, let's start with what DWP are actually checking and why before we go into the other things in this video. And also thank you for subscribing. Please do just hit that notification bell as well so you know when my videos come out. It helps to grow the channel, spread the word and help lots of people out with free and useful information. I do also have things like my paid books, my toolkits and even my membership if you feel that you need more support, more advice, but there is an awful lot on my channel and on my website that is completely for free, and I am most definitely not going to be that person to charge anyone £500 an hour. So here's what DWP actually checks and why. Now, obviously, I can't tell you every single thing, but I can tell you some things. The first thing they're going to check for are regular payments in that aren't declared, and that could indicate to them lifestyle choice or things that haven't been declared. Lifestyle choice that don't align with what you've said about your ability or inability to look for work or stay in work. These could be things like wages, a second income, maintenance payments, rental income, or any odd amount of money that is coming in regularly but hasn't been declared and can't be put into a box. DWP land is like everything needs to fit into a box. If it doesn't fit into a box, that's going to raise a red flag. The second thing they're going to be looking for is savings and capital. Now, if you're on straight universal credit, there is a savings ceiling. You can't have more than £16,000 furrowed away in a bank account whilst you're on universal credit. It literally makes you not entitled to claim at all from universal credit if you have over £16,000. If you have under £16,000, over the £6,000 mark, there will be a deduction of your universal credit after every £250. So if you've got £6,000 in your bank, and let's just say it's 6,500, it will go up in increments. So, 6,250 will deduct this amount. 6,500 will deduct this amount. It's not a huge amount, guys, but they will then start to taper. Now, if you want to know a way of how you can liquidate some money completely legally without defrauding, then watch this video here. After this video, of course. So the next thing they're going to check from looking at your bank statements is whether you're actually living where you say you're living, and with the person, if you say you are living with a person, who that person is and who else might be in that actual household, because universal credit is an entire household declaration. So they're obviously checking to make sure that, you know, you're not living with a boyfriend but saying it's a friend or something like that. This one particularly catches out quite a lot of couples who say that they're not living together, but actually they are. And the next one is large or unusual one-off transactions. If you have large amounts of money going into your bank account and you're on something like universal credit, that's obviously going to have to be explained, right? Because why would you have large amounts of money go into your bank account when you're saying to the state that you are like in so much financial need, you need £320 a month to live on? Now, whilst DWP are entitled to ask for information, I would most definitely be drawing the line at providing full bank statements with your entire bank account number and sort code there for everyone to see. Now, you're not allowed apparently to redact everything, although the GDPR and Data Protection Act do say that category A data, so that's data that relates to health, religion, maybe gender, anything that is a protected characteristic, does not have to be fully disclosed and can be redacted. However, if you're going to do that, it is very important that you put it in writing, first of all, with your reasons why, so that you are showing that you are willing to comply with their requests instead of blanketly refusing without any explanation. And that is one of the reasons why I have the data protection toolkit that you can find here. It also provides you with a very good audit trail should they suspend or close your account. Although there has been an upper tribunal decision already, which you can find in this playlist here. I'm going to link these all down below, guys, where an employment judge, where an upper tribunal judge has actually overturned the decision of a lower tribunal judge against the Department of Work and Pensions and said that the Department of Work and Pensions cannot close a universal credit account for not providing evidence. Now, watch this space, because all of these things are always changing, you know, every few months, and there are a lot of changes right now in this area, which is just another reason why you should be subscribed to my channel. Now, there are some other things, but these are the 4 main things that a basic work coach is going to be looking for in your bank statements. Now, whilst I'm not the biggest fan of the Department of Work and Pensions, right, I really do not accept that it's okay to be aggressive verbally or anything to anyone, particularly civil servants like working in the job centre. You know, everyone's fighting their own battles. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors, guys. So don't take it out on the work coach. It's not their fault. They're just doing a job. If you want to complain, go online and complain to DWP. So why do they then suddenly ask for all of this information and put a timeline onto it? Because this is the part that panics a lot of people, and this is why I say to at the Justice Journals, always have your evidence. You need to be keeping your evidence, whether it's your health evidence, your financial evidence, whatever it is, you need to be keeping it all of the time. So it reduces your stress, your anxiety, your panic, and it makes you look like you've got absolutely nothing to hide. Because if you don't have anything to hide, you should be and would be keeping pretty good records. So one of the reasons why they have that 14-day deadline is to make sure that should there be anything that someone is doing that they shouldn't be, that the evidence is not destroyed or, you know, gotten rid of. That's one of the reasons. The second reason is there's a whole process. So if you don't produce information or you start acting or saying things really dodgy, they're likely to refuse that to the fraud team, to the fraud team. And then the fraud team will have to go through their protocol, which also takes time. Whilst this is going on, they don't want to lose any potential evidence which would point to fraud. Very much, you know, like the police when they're doing their job. Time is of the essence. Now, where I think it is wrong is when you've got elderly folk, people that aren't really very digitally capable, can't even say the word, digitally capable, or people that have got disabilities and don't go out of the house or need assistance to go out or assistance to go to the bank. Giving someone 14 days when they're unwell is not okay. I think of my own mother, she's in her 80s. Sometimes my mum can have an illness that goes on for 4 months or 5 months where she literally cannot leave her bed or her armchair. So to expect that person to then go into the bank, because most older people are just not digitally capable, no respect, and brilliant if you are, but lots of people aren't, then I think that's wrong. If that's you, you can request a reasonable adjustment. Okay, under the Equality Act of 2010, it's a request. They have to look at it. They are mandated by law to respond to it. They don't have to agree to it. But if they can say, yeah, this person's an old person, you know, they're unwell, we can see various things on their claim. Yeah, of course, let's give them another 14 days, 28 days. That is completely, you know, that is a measurable response to a fair and reasonable request. Now, I do talk a lot about reasonable adjustments in my little guide here, the PIP expert guide. It isn't just for people on PIP, it is for anyone with health conditions. It's all about evidencing your health that support you in all sorts of situations like I've just explained. Okay, so I'm going to come on to the big elephant in the room. And it is why hiding money makes it worse, not better. I'm sorry, guys, but stay with me on this. And I understand that a lot of people are driven by fear, and also you feel violated. You know, you feel like, well, your bank account's meant to be private. Your bank statement says an awful lot about you, you know, what you do every single day. And to have somebody who you don't even know and don't really want looking through your, you know, your bank statement, it's like someone coming to your house and looking through your knicker drawer, isn't it? I'm not going to lie. It feels very, 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 like you feel very intruded upon. But there is a big difference between just a general, automatic check, and then there is a difference between being seen by a risk review officer or a fraud investigation officer. And if you cannot explain where your money's gone or what you've done with your money, then it starts to point the finger in, why? And what you want to do is you want to be transparent. You don't want to sow the seed of doubt in someone's mind, particularly the Department of Work and Pensions, because sometimes they are a little bit like a dog with a bone. They are one of the biggest organisations that just do not like to be wrong. And yes, they have an awful track record of being very, very wrong and coming out a little bit late, unfortunately, and, well, not even saying sorry in most cases. So I get where this comes from. I get it. But there are better ways of putting your money into assets legally, even small amounts of money, £300, £500, rather than, just taking all the money out of your bank and all of your savings out of your bank and not having an explanation for it. And this goes further, actually, because banks have to comply with, the financial regulations. They have to comply with money laundering rules, and they have to be making sure and asking the right questions. Why are you taking a large amount of money out and then putting a large amount of money in? I mean, some people are very much, well, because I want to, and I get that. But then also quite a lot of people that are using money to commit crime and do illegal things are also act like that. So what you want to do is have a clear audit trail where you can explain, yeah, I took out £1,000 because, I might not be going out of the house every single week, or I'm going on holiday, or I want to buy something cash because I want to see if I can get a better price if I pay cash for it, or whatever. That's fine. But if you suddenly take all of your savings out of your bank and you can't explain it, then that does sound a little bit weird sometimes. Now, I'm playing devil's advocate here. All I'm trying to do is help everybody comply and not get themselves into a worse situation, or get themselves put into a situation that they shouldn't really be in because they've just got anxious and nervous about all of these things. Now I'm going to come on to the absolute, killer of the situation. What's law versus what's currently being proposed? Now, if you've been watching any of my videos about DWP, you will know that I have been telling everybody for nearly 2 years now, 18 months, 2 years, that if you are on universal credit, if you are on universal credit with LCWRA or LCW, or you are on universal credit without any health conditions and you have not found a job, or you're not doing any type of activity, as in, work activity, they are going to come for you. Gone are the days that you can sit on benefits, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, and not look for a job. And because there have been decades sometimes of people doing that, because I'm disabled, right? I work, lots of disabled people do work, lots of people with health conditions do work, and if they don't work outside of their own home because they can't, lots of people with health conditions do work from inside their home, or they have their own businesses. But now there is an absolute campaign to make people get a job. Now, what Reform are proposing is they are saying that if you do not have a job after 12 months of being on universal credit, they're either going to mandate it, they're either going to, reassess your LCWRA or your LCW, and then they're likely to, perhaps not find you incapable for work, or they're going to make you do voluntary or community work, which, it sounds hyper ick. And I get it. If I was someone on universal credit, I would not want to be going and doing community work. So this change is coming, right? All of these people that are trying to fight this change is coming. I'm not saying that change, what Reform want to propose, is actually going to happen, but there are going to be changes, guys, because they've brought in the Fear Act. There are all sorts of changes being made to the Welfare Act, the Social Security Act, the Universal Credit Act. I go over them a lot in this on this channel because it affects the amount of money that you have. But one thing they're not telling you about, the one thing that you could do if you are on universal credit and you're not finding a job, and it could be for lots of reasons, lots and lots of different reasons. And I am not judging here because I have been on universal credit and I've been on the other side where people have not been able to get a job for lots of reasons. Maybe they have mental health issues that they haven't got help with. Maybe they're kind of homeless. Maybe they're middle-aged and they've had a marriage breakup. Maybe they've come out of prison. Maybe they've, had a car crash like I've had and they're really struggling to get things together. Maybe they don't have any qualifications. Maybe the qualifications they've got aren't helping them to get a job in the workplace. Maybe they just basically lack confidence. Maybe they've gone through something really traumatic and they just don't know where to start. So I am never going to be that person to say, you're just blagging it. But some people do. But I know from experience that a hell of a lot of people don't. And the majority of people that take universal credit do not want to do it because nobody wants to walk into that bloody job centre. But nobody. It's normally people's last port of call. I know that from doing that job. But what you could do if you are finding employment hard and you don't want to work in a traditional job and you don't want to do traditional workplace training, start your own business. I am a very big advocate of entrepreneurship and self-employment because it's one of the things that allowed me to put my health before anything else. Now, I'm not going to go into self-employment and business things really too much on this channel, but if you are interested in that, you need to follow my other channel because that is literally pure business. That's all I talk about. Online business, starting a business, all that sort of thing, because I absolutely love it. And you can see that joined at the top of this YouTube channel here, and I will also link it below. Now, if you're on LCWRA, you can start a business, you can be self-employed, you can also be a company director and still get universal credit. It's the same for you. It's the same for people on ESA. I have a client that I coach, okay? She had been on ESA for about 6 or 7 years. Nobody at the job centre told her that she could also be self-employed. You can, okay? You can be self-employed and on ESA, LCWRA, LCW, and even universal credit. The big difference is whether or not you are gainful or you are non-gainful in your self-employment. And if you want to know more about that, please just comment below and I'll do a video on it. Okay, now we're going to come on to the big loophole. So the biggest loophole that nobody is telling you about is the minimum income floor. The minimum income floor applies to absolutely everybody that is on a benefit. If you are not self-employed, they will use the minimum income floor as a tapering device to see how much money you should be earning to work out your average earnings threshold. If you are self-employed, the minimum income floor is what will determine whether or not you can be self-employed and just get on with being self-employed and get a little bit of universal credit for however long and just be left alone to do it, or it will determine whether or not they don't support your self-employment and you will still have to look for work as well. Now, both of these things are very important because if Reform bring in their new rules, this, I can guarantee you, will be one of the differentiators to make the test of the ruling as to what they will and they will not allow you to do. Now, if you have health conditions or you have a disability, you are allowed, and I had to review a lot of claims about this, okay? You are allowed to have a specific tapering of the minimum income floor. Now, unfortunately, some work coaches don't recognise this and they calculate the minimum income floor incorrectly. They calculate the minimum income floor for somebody who might not be as capable as somebody who doesn't have health conditions, and that would be discriminative under disability potentially. So if you're on the minimum income floor, you should have your hours and the amount that they say, the government say, you need to be working towards every single month, tapered to your unique circumstances and situations. And again, this is something that absolutely nobody talks about outside of DWP and indeed inside it sometimes. Now, whether or not you are found gainful or non-gainful or however the minimum income floor is applied to you, if you are self-employed, and like I said, you can be self-employed, you can be a contractor, you can be a director of a company, whatever, you can still claim universal credit, but you still need to be submitting your business income and expenses every single month. Now, I think this is one of the big differences, that people that don't have any type of an activity, either an employment activity or a business activity, I can understand why they get irked about this. But if you're in business and you're claiming universal credit, you have to provide those things every single month anyway. But I think DWP could do a lot better by educating claimants instead of making claimants just feel so fearful all the time. And lots of people have said to me in the comments, you should have done training for this. I actually offered a complete self-employment program for every single person on universal credit when I worked for DWP. I actually offered to go around to different job centres and to motivate as many different people as I could to get into self-employment and entrepreneurship, because I think lots of people would be motivated by that. But of course, it wasn't supported in the same way that they said to me that their social media is LinkedIn. I said, have you actually asked how many people on universal credit go and use LinkedIn? Because I can tell you now, they're all on TikTok. I said, even I've got a TikTok account. And they're like, have you? I said, yeah, absolutely. And now I've got a lot of TikTok accounts and I've got a lot of followers on TikTok. So thank you guys. But again, they don't do their market research very well. That's the number one. See, this is where my business mind comes in. Ask Ask your audience, where are you guys? Where is your audience? There's no point posting on LinkedIn. No one's going to see it. No one cares. No one's there. But anyway, like I say often, you can, take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And I just want to finish up with something that is very, very important for lots of my audience to know about and is very dear to me. Okay, so please listen very carefully. If you have a health condition and you want to start self-employment or try it because you know that the traditional workplace or the employment market is not suited for you, you are completely legally within your rights, although this is not legal advice, you are completely within your rights to be self-employed and still have a health condition. Being self-employed or having a self-employment practice or activity is not a testament to your capability of not having a disability, if that makes sense. So I know a lot of people worry by thinking, oh, I know that I can't work because of my health conditions. I can't find, work. I'm going to struggle. But I'm scared if I start self-employment, then they're going to think that my health isn't as bad as it is. That is just in your head, okay? And I understand why it's there, right? But obviously here at the Justice Journals, we have all sorts of content, rules, information to help you out with that. It is absolutely your right to be self-employed, still be in receipt of ESA, LCWRA, or dare I say it, PIP. To say that it's, that you're not could potentially be deemed as discriminative. Okay, so please don't make that mistake. Although, like I said, I understand why you would make it, but the only, you're just potentially stopping your future potential by thinking that. That's a confidence issue only that can be overcome. So please don't worry about that. Anyway, guys, this has been a bit of a long one. So thank you if you've got to the end. If you've got to the end, thank you guys. I love you so much. Please leave me a little comment, a question about anything I've mentioned here or anything else you'd like me to cover going forward. Have a wonderful week. Take care. Goodbye.